One. And we're live again from beautiful downtown Oakland, where our winters are like your summers. Life has been fun here today. It's a freezing 56 degrees out, as I mentioned.
Grr.
Gloat. Yeah. Just sit there and gloat.
I am in fact gloating a little bit because I woke up this morning and I said to myself, oh my God, I better get out of bed and check the driveway. And then I went, wait a minute, there's no snow in the driveway. I don't have to shovel. And I rolled over and went back to sleep.
Yay!
It was glorious.
I agree.
So, are there any questions from last week before we dive into the material from this week?
Last week we talked about the first precept.
Yes, the first precept. Breathe consciously. The precept upon which all other precepts are built. Okay, well, that makes it easy. You don't have to answer any hard questions or easy questions. Okay, nothing on the chat. So tonight we're going to talk about the second of the 9 precepts, which in Farsi is Nazar Bar Qadam, and usually it's translated as watch your step. This is an interesting one. A lot of foolishness comes out of this aphorism. When I'm kind of working from some notes from a lecture that I gave on this 25, 30 years ago. And back then there was this big sheikh who said that what this aphorism means is that the student, the murid, the disciple, should at all times only look at his feet, so that he would not be distracted by the world. And just thinking about that gives me a pain in the neck. Your head forward all the time like that, not good for you. So I suggest that it probably doesn't mean that. Now, even though the terms that we're using are from the Persian, the words that we're using are from the Arabic, because Persian has tons and tons of Arabic loanwords. So to understand this, we look at the word and its roots. Nazar means to perceive with the eyes, to view, to regard, but also to pay attention. The letters are Nun, Ze, Re. And the form that it uses that is meaningful here has to do with insight, discernment, contemplation, examination, and penetration, as well as the visual references. Qadam is another interesting word. The Arabic root is 3 letters, Q, D, M, Qaf, Dal, Mi, Me, and it means to proceed, to arrive at a place. It also means a foot, as in the foot on the end of your leg, and a measurement. If you think back to Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Indiana Jones was trying to figure out the meanings of the temple, and he went to an old Sufi to ask him about it, and the Sufi read it, and he read the length of measurement in qadams, because that was how they did it back then. So here you have this phrase, Nazar Bar Qadam, which can mean a number of different things depending on where you put the diacritical marks or the short vowels or long vowels. And the idea is to pay attention to where you are going and to be alert. There is a quality that implies a state of alertness in this. So, how do you understand this? Oops, almost didn't see Scott there. Scott is in here now.
Aaron asked if you were referring to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yes, measure 10 qadams, and then on the other side of the amulet, and take back 1 qadam for the Jewish God. Something like that. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but that stuck with me. This means something. Okay, so the idea of watch your step is almost identical to the Sanskrit idea of karma. You've all heard of karma, right? Everybody here's heard of karma. Can anybody tell me what the word karma means?
Consequence?
No, actually, it doesn't.
Okay.
You would, yeah, you think.
Doesn't it mean your action?
Yes, it's exactly what it means. Karma means action. So, the fruits of your karma are the fruits of your actions. And most of the time, according to the Sanskrit guys, the yogis, your actions bear seeds. There is a thing called seedless action where you actually don't create any karma, but that's we're not even going to worry about that. So, the meaning of this is to understand that all of your actions will have consequences, and your actions will either take you where you want to go, take you away from where you want to go, or have no effect on where you're going at all. Basically one of those three. So you can take an action that basically has no meaning, or so little significant meaning that it might as well have no meaning. You can take an action that will move you away from your path, move you away from your awakeness. You can take an action that will bring you towards your awakeness. Now, this is asking you to be aware of the consequences before you take the action. To ask yourself, if I choose to take this course, what are the potential consequences of this action? And then to ask yourself, are these consequences ones that I want? Now, that all seems very simple, right? Easy peasy. And yet, it turns out for most people to be incredibly difficult because we are driven in our actions by things more powerful than our cognitive thought. I'm trying to think of some good examples. One classic example is if you know you should not eat something. Like for me, I know that I should not eat any high carbohydrate foods. And yet I can watch my mind give me 10,000 reasons why eating that one piece of high carb food, say that one piece of really tasty blueberry pie, is probably okay just this one time. And that part of my mind that is telling me that wants the immediate gratification of eating the blueberry pie and does not care about the consequences. You've all been here, right? You've all done this.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
So, that being the case, one of the things, after you have gotten your breathing under control, because your breathing allows you to take advantage of the opportunity to stop these things. The place where you can stop a unconscious action is at its beginning. And the way that you stop the unconscious action at its beginning is to use the power of your own breath to interrupt it. Human beings can exert some pretty significant control over their biology. You can learn to alter your blood pressure. You can learn to alter your pulse rate. You can learn to alter galvanic skin response, all of these things. They're relatively hard to do that. But the one thing that you have immediate control over is your breath. And your breath mediates all of these other systems. You want to lower your blood pressure? Change your breathing. You want to raise your blood pressure? Change your breathing. You want to lower your heart rate? Change your breathing. You want to activate your digestion? Change your breathing. So, once you have gotten a certain amount of mastery over your breath, and you can use your breath practice to interrupt the unconscious flow of patterns of immediate gratification, then you are moving into the step, into the process of watching your step. Now, why, you may ask, that you would want to do this? Because sometimes gratification can get you in trouble. Rationalization can get you in trouble. So, you have to remember that every action has a near-term and a short-term consequence. And if the near-term consequence is a dopamine rush, immediate pleasure, but the far-term consequence is misery over the action that gave you the dopamine rush, then not so good. So, Nazar Bar Qadam is the practice of following a potential action to its consequences and choosing only those actions which supports one's path rather than the actions which provide momentary gratification to the ego. And by ego, I mean the habitual, mechanical, programmed ego, the commanding self. Are you with me so far? Any questions before I go on?
Yes. How do you
Yes.
evaluate actions that have some risk or where there are a lot of unknowns about how they'll work out?
Can you give me an example?
Well, a simple one would be I go out for a walk. There's some chance a car will jump the curb and hit me.
Yes.
Very likely.
True.
Or, you're voting in an election, you don't know the candidates that well. You can kind of guess, but you don't know what you'll get.
Okay. Two different answers on that one. You realize anytime you go outside of the house, even in the house, there is danger. So, knowing that, you pay attention to your environment. So you go, okay, I need to walk to the store. It's heavy traffic right now, so I will pay very, very close attention to my environment. If I choose to put in earbuds and blast music into my brain really, really loud so I can't hear the blare of the car coming at me, that would be a mistake. As to the politician thing, if you look ahead and you go, okay, I'm going to vote in this election and I want to choose the best politician, then what you need to look at is, what do you need to do to figure out which politician is the one who is going to support you? And it is incumbent upon you to do that research. This is more like, all of those are both valid situations. Eating something that you shouldn't is a valid situation. Doing something that will give you momentary gratification and long-term grief is something else that is in need of this particular tool. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You certainly have more information about some things than others.
Yes. And whatever information you have, it is up to you to make the best possible choice. In an election, you have two candidates. And you look at them and go, if I find out nothing about these candidates and I choose one at random, I could end up with another Donald Trump, right? So what do you do to assure yourself that you won't do that? What choices do you make along the way? How do you guide your steps to the outcome that you want? Realizing that there is always that little 1% of chance that will get in there. I mean, we saw that with, what was it? Edwards, when he was running for the presidential nomination. And he seemed like a really great guy to everybody. He was saying all the right things. And then it turns out he was another sleazebag.
Womp womp.
You're responsible for doing your own work with this. The universe is responsible for not dropping a safe on your head while you're walking down the street. Chance is always going to be a factor.
So Ahmed asks, is this similar to the Stanford marshmallow experiment about delayed gratification?
Yes, as a matter of fact, it relates very directly to it. I like to bring up that experiment. For those of you who don't know what he's referring to, you take a group of kids, you put them in a room, you say to them, you put, 2 marshmallows in front of them, and you say, you have a choice. You can either eat these 2 marshmallows, I got to leave the room, and you can eat the 2 marshmallows while I'm gone, or if you wait until I get back, I will give you 2 more marshmallows and you'll have 4 to eat. And of course, the children, being children, most of them eat the 2 marshmallows because they want the immediate gratification. And they do not think ahead to the possibility of 4 marshmallows. Interestingly, the few kids who delayed their gratification to get the 4 marshmallows. Following them in life, they turned out really quite good at what they were doing.
I've heard claims that it actually turned out that the kids who delayed gratification were the ones who lived with trustworthy adults.
I don't know about that one way or the other.
Okay.
All I know is that when they looked at their lives 20 years later, they were all doing very well.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they lived with trustworthy adults, maybe not. That's going to be kind of hard to determine. So there was a bunch of other stuff coming up here, though.
There is.
Yes.
Aaron said, when I pay attention, I feel more safe, but certainly not invincible.
Well, you shouldn't feel invincible because the universe is bigger than you.
Scott says, right now I'm taking steps toward achieving a better financial situation in my life, profane space, which will hopefully provide the stability to allow me time and resources to pursue my spiritual path, sacred space. In doing so though means forfeiting time short term, which I might be using to pursue my spiritual development. Short term risk for hopefully long term gain, outcome uncertain. Come on, scroll, damn it. No guarantees from the universe, though.
Yep. Yeah, that though, that is a rational adult viewpoint. And this is the difference between people who go for the immediate gain versus people who can postpone the immediate gain for the long-term gain. The latter is adult behavior. Children have no way of future pacing like an adult does. So part of being an adult is making these choices. Yes, they will be oftentimes uncertain. You can only do the best that you can do. But if you do your due diligence, the universe is supposed to do its due diligence as well.
So to that point, Ilmar has said, there is a point of diminishing returns when researching potential outcomes, to the point where it can lead to inaction.
Yeah, but if you're doing that, you're not doing this process. That would be stuck in a preparation loop on the Enneagram, as we say.
Mm. How would you know?
But it's still a valid point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how do you know when to move on from the preparation phase? What should be your impetus to be like, all right, I think I'm good to go in terms of the prep stuff?
That's going to be
that's what Omar's asking too. So how do you know when you've done enough?
Yeah. Okay, I've just got a message saying that the internet connection is unstable. So if everything goes haywire, we'll still come back.
I think he's stuck in a pondering mode in preparation.
Nothing wrong with taking time to think about it.
Yes. So the way that you know that you have done enough prep work is when you have done all reasonable diligence. There will come a point where you will notice if by continuing to search for possible outcomes, you're stopping yourself from taking action.
Mm.
But when you can go, yes, I see the possible outcomes. I think that if I can choose this way, and if I act in this direction, it will get me to where I'm aiming to go. That's when you take the step. This requires a certain amount of self-awareness so that you can tell whether or not you're bullshitting yourself. Also, this is where a teacher comes in, because if you're not sure whether or not you're bullshitting yourself, you check with your teacher and they will tell you whether or not you're bullshitting yourself. Unless they're bullshitting themselves, in which case they have to check with their teacher. And it's bullshit all the way down.
All the way down. Yep. All right. Aaron asks,
So-
are there any children that eat none of the marshmallows? I mean, maybe if they don't like them, but I don't know. You might want to research the experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, there are children who didn't eat the marshmallows. There's always somebody who doesn't do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, I mean, that experiment has been complicated in a lot of ways, but I think in the way that we're using it as an example of what it can look like to have that self-awareness to think ahead to what you might want more than what's in front of you, I think it's a good example for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it for
Yeah.
questions.
Aaron observes an observation from my friend Steve, who said
Oh, yeah.
that a lot of success seems to be a matter of tolerance for doing the same things day after day after day. That can be true. There's a caveat to that, though. You only do the same thing day after day after day if it's working.
Right.
If you're beginning to get the results that you want. The problem that human beings have is that we believe things. And one of my teachers gave me, he told me a story years and years and years ago, back when I was a wee lad. He said, okay, so these scientists did this experiment, and they took a bunch of rats, and they put them in a maze, and they put the cheese in the maze. And the rats went through, and after a while they found the cheese. Then they learned the maze, because you would put the cheese in the same place every time, and the rats will just run the maze the same way every time to get to the cheese. And then you move the cheese. And then the rats will run the maze like they always do, and they'll get to the place where the cheese is supposed to be, and they'll look around, and there is no cheese. So they go back and they check, make sure that they ran it right. And they will do this several times. But if there's no cheese, eventually they will stop running that route, and they will start looking for the cheese someplace else. And then they'll find it and they'll learn that route. Now, these scientists did the same experiment with humans. They built a big maze, and they put a bunch of humans in it. And then they put a $100 bill. And this was back in the early 70s, so a $100 bill was a considerable amount of money. They put a $100 bill at a part in the maze, and the human learned to run the maze. And they would find the $100 bill, they'd put it in their pocket, they would feel good, and they'd do the same thing the next day. And then, of course, the scientists moved the $100 bill. Now, here's the difference between rats and humans. The humans never stopped going back to the place where the $100 bill used to be, because they believed that it had to be there. Some of those humans now, 50 years later, are still breaking into that lab at night, going to the maze and seeing if they can find the $100 bill, because they know that it just has to be there. So you have to make sure that you are not one of those guys looking for the $100 bill. You could be one of those guys. And so you don't look in places that ain't got the cheese. If the cheese ain't there, look somewhere else. This is like one of the most profound, if you get nothing out of this tonight except for this one thing, you've gotten your money's worth. Of course, it's free, so you're getting your money's worth anyway, but you get your money's worth. And that is, if you do something and it doesn't work, do something else. Don't wait. Don't do it again. Don't do it harder. Don't do it louder. Don't do it with friends. Do something else.
So,
This- Yes.
finish your thought. Go for it.
I was going to say, this is the Sufi way.
Ilmar's wondering if we have a reference to that experiment. Do we remember the name of it? I don't.
Ilmar, it was a metaphor.
Yeah, it's a metaphor, but it's a troubling metaphor because it strikes me as being way too simplistic. I mean, take the maze. If I don't find the $100 bill, what?
Yeah, it may strike you as being way too simplistic, and yet the point remains valid. How many people do you know who have gotten into the same relationship over and over again with different people?
Granted.
How many people do you know who have gotten into the same job over and over again with different companies? The story is simplistic because it needs to be simplistic so that people can see the point.
I see that. I see that. But on the other hand, I'm quite prepared to try something a second time just because I might have messed up in my first attempt. I might have missed something which was not obvious, you know?
Then you're being like the rats. That's what the rats did. The rats went back. They checked. They made sure that they went down the right corridors. And when they finally figured out that they had done everything right and it wasn't working, they changed their behavior.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people are like those rats. I mean, we try things again just to test out, did we do it
You are more
correct?
optimistic than I am.
Okay, maybe I'm more like a rat. Maybe that's... Okay, well, but I get your point. Thanks.
Aaron asks, does this tie into the Nasruddin story about the coin? Question mark on the Nasruddin.
Kind of. The Nasruddin story about the coin is basically people will look where it's easy, not where it's difficult. And Nancy said, I saw a version of the Maze story in one of the early NLP books. Maybe. I got it way before Bandler and Grinder came up with NLP, so they might have gotten it from my source.
Scott's asking about the parable for looking for keys under the streetlight.
Yep, that's the same thing as Nasruddin looking for the coin.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know the story, Mullah Nasruddin is outside his house and he's looking around and he's like really frantic. And one of his neighbors comes up and goes, Mullah, what are you doing? And Nasruddin goes, I lost a golden dinar and I'm looking for it. And so his neighbor starts helping him look, and they look everywhere and they're not finding it. And the neighbor finally says, Mullah, do you remember the last place you saw the coin? And he said, yes, it was in my bedroom. And then the neighbor looks at him and said, why are you looking for it out here then? And the mullah says, the light is better out here. That's the story.
Yep. Ahmed says, he's quoting Marshall Goldsmith and says, what you got here won't get you there.
Yep. Yes, Ralph. For those of you who don't get the reference to Ralph, you have to watch Jewel of the Nile.
Oh yeah, that's right.
When the sheikh says to Ralph, Ralph, that is not the Sufi way.
I need to see that again. It's been a while.
Yeah, I have a copy of it. So, okay, so there we have this. Now, what does this mean for you? So you guys have heard me go on and on at length, ad nauseum, about the concept of adult human beings. The first quality of an adult human being, and I'm using adult human being in the same sense of the insani kamil, the perfected human. is the ability to understand the consequences of their actions. And that's a rare thing in my own experience. I end up dealing with people who don't understand the consequences of their actions on a moderately regular basis. And the one thing about them that is true is that they are children. They may be in adult bodies. They may have kids of their own. They may have grandkids. And yet their behavior is that of a child. So that is the basic reason for this facet of the practice, to teach yourself to understand that you are in a time stream that takes you somewhere and that you have choice over where it takes you. You don't have 100% choice. Maybe 60% of the things that happen to you, you have no control over. But if that is the case, then 40% of the things that happen to you, you do have control over. And this is the area that you are asked to work in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So who can give me an example of actually using this in their lives somewhere? Or failing to use it, which is oftentimes more fun as stories go, though often more painful.
If it's easier to unmute yourself, that's fine.
Yeah, you don't have to type. So that piece of chocolate cake.
I mean, that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about
Yeah.
food. Yeah.
Buying books.
Are you pretty compulsive about book buying, Nancy? Oh, that's
Yeah.
yeah. Oh.
How many of the books do you own that have you read?
I'm not sure. Let's say 2/3.
Okay, then you are 2/3 there.
So that's good.
Yeah, could be worse. Are you, and then why are you buying books? Why do you buy the books that you buy?
They look interesting. I think I'm going to read them.
What about them is interesting? For example, I love books too, so I can relate to this. If I had infinite funds and infinite space, I could buy out the entirety of Powell's bookstore and do that in a day. But I have two broad categories of why I buy books. Category one is I am buying a book because I can learn something from it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think I can learn something from it. Quality two is I am buying this book because I think it will be entertaining and diverting, and I will enjoy reading it. So let me pull up, I have my catalog of books right here.
Oh, do you?
You take a look at some of them. So, Speak Spanish with Confidence. That's a book that I just picked up.
Are these ebooks, or you keep like a spreadsheet?
I both.
Hmm.
The Set Point Diet. That's another one. That's a learning book. The Name of the Wind. That is pure delightful entertainment brought to a very high literary level. If you have not read The Name of the Wind, you should read this book.
That sounds so familiar.
Patrick Rothfuss.
Yeah, Patrick Rothfuss, who has some incredible virtues as a writer. Finishing his series is not one of them. But Name of the Wind and its sequel were two of the best books I've read in the last 25 years. For reading for pure enjoyment.
Making notes.
So I don't buy books on how to fix a car. I buy books on how to fix a mind or how to fix a heart, because that's the area that I'm interested in. And I have a rule that says that if I have 10 or more books that I have not read yet, I don't get to buy another one.
Vivian says, I am also a compulsive book buyer, but that is because I can't get books in English all the time. However, now that I have a Kindle, I buy what I read, and I am 9/10 of the way of finishing what I have. That's good.
Yeah.
I tend to be really conservative about books, not because I don't enjoy them, but because I have limited space. And I just know how it can get when you have stacks of books everywhere. And I already have a couple of stacks going, so trying to be more thoughtful about the books I pick out.
Yeah. Yeah, at one point, I had thousands of dollars worth of books, literally thousands of dollars worth of books.
I believe
Rare
it.
books, interesting books. And then one of my uncles died. And his family was incredibly poor. And they basically had nothing. They were looking at having to put him in a pauper's grave. So I went into my library, I took all of my books, and I sold them. And I used the money to pay for his funeral. And you know what? Most of the time, I have not missed a single one of those books. That's an interesting experience. Had all of those books, and I didn't miss any of them. So, other thoughts, questions, answers, agreements, disagreements. We can fight about it if you want. More examples.
How about dating unavailable people?
Dating unavailable people, dating the wrong people. That's that is a common human trait. So, if you were to apply Nazar Bar Qadam to going out with the people you meet and choosing how to relate to them, it would give you a completely different consequence to just following what you are programmed to do with people. this may be one of the most important areas of this particular practice, is in interpersonal interaction. Not just the romantic stuff for you youngins out there, but for all human interactions. What do you choose to believe about the people who you interact with, even in the face of being shown something different? And how do you handle it when an incongruity comes up?
Scott asks, I would ask, unavailable for what? I guess in the way that I'm using it is, yeah, what Mushtaq's talking about someone who expresses incongruent, what's that word? Incongruencies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like they express being available, but ultimately they're not able to be present in any sort of mutually beneficial relationship in practice, as opposed to,
in theory, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Not necessarily deception, but yes, sometimes deception.
Well, actually, it is deception. It may be unconscious deception.
Yeah, that's why I say not necessarily, but even that is deception in an unconscious sense, yes.
Yeah, and it is also, so you have somebody who you're relating with, and they say to you, I am only interested in this kind of relationship. And then you say to yourself, but I can change that.
Yeah. Scott says, LOL. Yes, indeed.
Yes. So the deception is oftentimes with you rather than the other person. Definitely. I mean, I've run across this more than once where somebody has said to somebody else, this is who I am, this is what I'm interested in, this is what you would get from relating to me. And the other person goes, okay, and then expects something totally different. Or thinks that they can make them
Aaron says, clear convictions are important. Yeah, I'd say so. As clear as you can get them is, all the better.
Yep. And don't lie to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is the main reason to have a teacher, because the whole point of having a teacher is for when you are lying to yourself, you have somebody who can go, you're lying to yourself. So find the person who can do that. Listen to them when they tell you. It might be your wife. It might be your husband. It might be your best friend. It might be your worst enemy. It doesn't matter. If they are telling you when you're lying to yourself, then they are in the role of the teacher. All right. So, commercial time. Da, 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 da.
So, what do we have coming up?
We have coming up, starting on February where is my calendar?
February the 2nd?
Yeah. February the 2nd, yes. February the 2nd is the final and complete date for the beginning of the 10-week Enneagram of the Chief Feature course. Yay! Bells and whistles. Huzzah! It's going to be fun. It's going to be different. It is going to be looking at the concept of personality from a completely different point of view.
Scott says,
Scott is having fun.
Forever. Yes.
Yes.
And yeah.
And This is going to be 10 weeks. It is going to be our first paid course because we are having to pay some stuff to do it. You have two ways of participating in it. The first way is like this. You can join in on it. If you can't join in on it, you can still participate in it by having the recording sent to you right afterwards. And
So that's part of the package, is that you
that's
get
part of the
access
package.
either
Yeah.
in person live and through the recorded sessions, or you can
Just through the recorded sessions. Yeah, and yeah, this is going to be, in some ways, this is an experiment. Everything that I do is an experiment. I want to see. Scott asks, does this differ from the course that Steve and I did? Completely. It will be nothing like the course that Steve and I did. If you took that course, you will have more of a background for what we're going to be doing. And some things will be clear, but we're going to be focusing specifically on the chief feature, the Enneagram of the fixation of attention, and how it creates what Mr. Gurdjieff called the chief feature, or what the Sufis call the commanding self, the nafs al-amara. And what to do about it. If you got one of these buggers running around in your head, you can do things about it. And if you do things about it, your life gets better. Theoretically. It is going to be an in-depth version of the second module. Rather than being an hour, it's going to be probably 15, 16 hours worth of material, because I know I'm going to run over a 1 hour time limit. I'm not even setting a 1 hour time limit. I'm saying it's going to take as long as it takes on each one.
Because it's material that we want to make sure people walk away with an understanding about, especially because it's a program that is specifically for people who are reaching out for the experience through, paying for it, essentially. Like, we want to make sure.
Yeah, I'm planning on making it worth way more than I have to charge. And here's the thing. First of all, it will teach you things about yourself. That's the most important thing. You will learn things about yourself and how yourself operates. And when I say self, I mean commanding self. And what you can do about it. It will also teach you to begin to perceive the chief feature of other people. And if you perceive the chief feature of other people, you can use the process of watch your step to know what they're going to do.
This is part of foreseeing outcomes.
Yes, it is part of foreseeing outcomes. And you do not use that skill at your peril. I know that every time that I have not paid attention to that, I have regretted it. I can't think of a single time when my deeper self was going, pay attention to this. And I went, nah, I don't need to pay attention to that. And the next thing you know, you're hanging by one hand from a vine over a cliff, and there's a tiger on the top and a tiger on the bottom. And what you gonna do? Been there, done that. Have the tiger skin t-shirt to prove it. Yes, somebody gets that reference.
Yep. May as well.
May as well. So that's going to be that. I will have up sometime this week a place where people who are interested can enroll. And you're all invited because I'm doing this for you. And then, oh yeah, buy the Ultimate Enneagram course. It's very cool. Buy it for your friends. Makes a great Christmas gift, birthday present, all of that kind of stuff. UltimateEnneagram.com. Oh, what else? Oh, yes, I have 2 slots open for my hang out and talk with Mushtaq times. The special that I'm doing, ongoing special where you can get 6 sessions talking with me about whatever you want to talk about. And whatever you want to talk about, I will change the conversation to what I find interesting. So trust in that. And instead of the $100 an hour, it will only be $50 an hour if you purchase, say, the 6. Right now, I'm running the 6. So $300 for 6 hours worth of serious work. Feel free if you haven't. And by the way, there are several people who have involved themselves in this, and they are welcome to give spontaneous, unsolicited testimonies at this point. I'll wait. But yeah, I think it's worth it. Anyway, so that's going on. I have room for 2 more people in my time, and yeah, we will go for we'll definitely. I will be putting something up about that and why you would want to do it as well. But I wanted to make you aware that their time had opened up.
Yes.
Other than that, I can't think of anything that I'm trying to sell.
Well, Nancy asks, how much will the Chief Feature course cost?
It will be $100 for all 10 courses. So it'll work out to $10 a course, $10 an hour. Cheap. How, you might ask, can I do it for so inexpensive a price? And it's very simple. I cheat the other guy and pass on the savings to you.
God. So we'll have more information about that forthcoming, and we'll make sure
Yes.
that gets posted.
Yeah. Kyle and I are madly working on this right now.
Yep.
Yeah, emphasis on the mad. Sorry. Any updates regarding the retreat? We are knocking stuff around. There's still talk about people wanting to drag me out to Australia in what would be our winter, their summer, and I have several people who are looking at places in Europe and or around Europe where people can get to. So everything's up in the air. Got to figure out where we can do it, how we can do it that will not cost everybody an arm and a leg, because I find the thought of $10,000 a weekend retreats to be morally offensive.
Tend to agree.
Yeah, so
Quite.
I want to have a very, very nice place that normal human beings can come to.
Nice.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
Yes. Yeah, Spain is one of the places. I have 2 people who are advocating for Spain right now, and one of whom is going to Valencia this week and is going to be scouting around for places there. Then Egypt is still a possibility. You know, we have not discounted that either, because Egypt is cool. They have pyramids. They have sphinxes.
Kitties.
Curses of the mummies. So all of this is kind of up in the air. I am waiting for I'm waiting for the universe to tell me what it wants me to do. I'm trying to be open to all possibilities and look down the path of each of them as they come up. And there will be ones that will be easy to do and have good consequences, and there will be ones that will be hard to do and oftentimes have bad consequences. Like, I would love to do a retreat in Iran, but I think that would be bad. You know, just off the top of my head, though I love the countryside there and everything and the great food, something about it just it doesn't ring right. It doesn't work. So there we have the commercials and the talk, and as always, it is a delight to spend an evening hanging out with you guys. It's something that I actually look forward to every week.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a treat. So, I am going to say the official good night, and we will kill the recording, and we'll pick it up again next week.